I'm pretty shocked at Kamala Harris. I'm shocked. She says that we need to end the U.S. wars in Yemen, Afghanistan, and Syria, and she's opposed to the war with Iran. I haven't heard her say anything about Venezuela or Afghanistan. But she is right. She's right to be opposed to the wars in Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria, and Iran, and the 27 wars. She needs to be opposed to more wars, so that's not enough, but she's right, okay? So Kamala, a good thing about the death penalty, she didn't pursue a death penalty for a man who had killed a California police officer. She got a bunch of pressure to kill the man, but she didn't. And so this is, I think, San Francisco, perhaps. I'm not for sure, but his guilt wasn't clear, so, So, yeah, the guilt wasn't clear. It wasn't, was he innocent? Was it justified? So on police, she's the anti-Donald. Donald doesn't think police can do any wrong, whereas Kamala Harris had saved a man from the death penalty who had taken a life of a police officer. So, yeah, Donald says that that person deserves the death penalty if we know that they're guilty. But if they're, innocent or possibly they didn't know something, somebody just, there could have been a raid or something, they just bust down the door, and so, I don't know the whole case. But in terms of the death penalty, she withstood public pressure, and she stood resolute for her belief, in her anti-death penalty belief. Kamala Harris doesn't accept any corporate PAC money. Okay, so she's right about all these wars for the death penalty. She says she's been personally against the death penalty her whole life, even though her administration had fought against a judge's order that said that California's death penalty was unconstitutional, or it was the federal courts. I don't know. There is a case where she fought against the death penalty being, decriminalized or being put out of commission. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, she has a lot of things that she believes in, okay? So I'm just going to go back and forth most of the time. But Kamala Harris, she doesn't accept corporate PAC money. I think Tulsi Gabbard doesn't accept corporate PAC money. Tulsi is really good when it comes to the military. When it comes to regime change wars, she's also opposed to a bunch of wars, too, like Kamala Harris. So Tulsi wants to crack down on sexual assaults in the military, which is good. Jeffrey Dahmer got his, taste of hurting people. He was raping soldiers in the Army. Lift the ban on transgenders serving in the military, another good thing. You ever seen MASH, Klinger, Corporate Klinger? He used to wear dresses all the time. That's transgendered. That's okay. That doesn't take anything away from me. So you want to wear a dress? Enjoy yourself. So you have Tulsi wants to crack down on sexual assaults in the military, lift the ban on transgenders serving in the military. She also wants to end the nuclear arms race. So that's fantastic. We could wipe ourselves out with nuclear arms like virtually all Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard is for getting back into the Iran nuclear deal or possibly negotiating a new one. Kamala Harris also wants to get back into the Iran nuclear deal. Tulsi Gabbard fought in the Iraq War, which is a war she personally was opposed to because she believes she was lied to. She was lied into that war, but she fought. She fought in Iraq in spite of knowing that, she was lied to out of loyalty and duty to her country. Tulsi Gabbard says she's going to end the wars in Syria and Yemen in combat operations in Afghanistan, which means the occupation still continues. Hey, Tulsi, I thought you were opposed to regime change wars. If you're so opposed to regime change wars, then how come you're still for the war in Afghanistan? Just in combat operations? Got to maintain the oppression? I thought that actually Tim Ryan said that we needed a presence there, and then, we need to stay engaged. And then she was sitting there saying, so, she mentioned ending combat operations. Combat operations is code for occupation continues, but we're going to take out the combat troops. So anti-terrorism and then security forces for the embassy will stay. Now, Kamala agrees with a lot of these oppositions. She's opposed to the Syrian and the Yemen war, too. She also doesn't want war with Iran, just like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know her position on Afghanistan or Venezuela, but when it comes to Iran, Syria, and the war in Yemen, Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard are in sync, and they agree that we shouldn't be in these wars. Tulsi Gabbard is opposed to the 2011 NATO-led Libya overthrow. That was a regime change war. She was also opposed to the CIA arming Al-Qaeda and Jabhat Fatah al-Sham and ISIL terrorists to fight our fight in Syria, even trying to pass a bill. Stop arming terrorists. Stop arming this terror. That's not going to be good for the war on terror if we're arming the terrorists. So she had a bill, stop the terrorists, stop arming the terrorists, and it didn't go anywhere. So what are we doing? Does anybody know? Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard are both terrible on Palestine. Okay, Kamala Harris says that Israel upholds human rights wonderfully, perfectly. Israel should be used as a model for human rights in the entire world. Yeah, I'm sure. How would Israel feel if Palestine did to it that which, Israel's doing in Palestine? They keep all the humanitarian aid out of Israel. If Palestine built a wall around Israel, made sure nobody sent humanitarian, made sure nobody could leave out of Israel, militarily had checkpoints. They're occupying Israel, and they had a wall and checkpoints and military, so they just had this open-air prison for the Israelis, and they can't go nowhere. They can't leave. They can't do nothing. So how would they feel? That's justice. Just reverse the roles. Reverse the roles. So the specific background to that is they asked Kamala Harris, does Israel uphold human rights? And she said, yes. Do you think Israel upholds human rights? They're doing pretty good. Yes. They are doing perfect. They are wonderful. I embellished a little bit. But Israel, it's an open-air prison, an open-air concentration camp. So essentially Israel takes the house of the Palestinians, so Palestine. Israel comes into Palestine's house, takes over. This is my house now, Palestine. And then Israel takes Palestine down to the basement and then locks Palestine in a closet in the basement. Now, is that fair? Reverse the roles. If Palestine put Israel in the basement, or closet in the basement of their own house, how would Israel feel? If you're not a fucking racist, and, Palestinians have human rights just like everybody else. So Israel needs to change their ways. I'm going to continue boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel until they agree to a two-state solution and they actually uphold it, or a one-state, secular, democratic state solution, and they declare it unambiguously and they uphold it. Tulsi Gabbard's going to sign the anti-BDS bill, boycott, divest, and sanction. She's triangulating too much. She didn't support Obama's United Nations resolution condemning Israel for their illegal settlements, and then Tulsi supported Netanyahu's speech to U.S. Congress by attending it, even though it was a slap in the face to the Obama administration. So I'm always going to boycott, divest, and sanction all the things I don't like, right? I don't care for the Confederates. I don't care for the damn Nazis. I don't care for oppressors. I don't care for people that, rape, murder, pillage. Anybody that hurts other people, fuck those criminal sons of bitches. Boston Tea Party, that's a violent boycott of the Honorable British East India Company. So there's a tea tax, and all the tea was taxed, but not the East India Company. They bought a bunch of tea from China, and they sold a bunch to the United States without having to pay their tea taxes. So, yeah, we got to dress up like Native Americans and throw all the tea into the harbor. So the Boston Tea Party, precursor to the American Revolution. The Boston Tea Party, that's a violent boycott. So what? We're opposed to boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning. Divest, don't invest, sanction, passing. God, we're all about sanctions. Sanctions against Cuba, sanctions against Venezuela, sanctions against Iran, sanctions here, sanctions against China, sanctions against Russia. I don't know. I feel like the impact is going to be lessened if you just keep sanctioning everybody. Montgomery bus boycott. This is integration in America. Montgomery bus boycott. So boycotts, integrated America. Boycotts liberated America from the yoke of British repression. Kamala Harris said she's going to end the war on drugs. Only Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kamala Harris are going to end the war on drugs. And that's fantastic. Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg want to legalize marijuana. But Pete just wants to legalize marijuana. Kamala wants to legalize marijuana in the war on drugs, just like Tulsi and Bernie. So her rhetoric is right. It's a public crisis. It's a public health crisis. In the war on drugs, focus on treatment. Focus on reducing the harm. Now, Kamala, she does, as Attorney General Kamala Harris, prioritize the prosecution of transnational gangs and weapons drugs, and human traffickers. So, 3, 4, 2, the gangs, transnational gangs, okay, their weapons, their drugs, and then human traffickers. But by focusing on drugs, that means the war on drugs was a very important staple for Kamala in California. So she's throwing people with marijuana into jail, the war on drugs, all the drugs. So she's enforcing Nixon's 1971 war on drugs. So her actions, her record says that she's going to carry it on. Now her mouth and her rhetoric is, she's evolved. But again, how gung-ho is she? How gung-ho is she going to, fight against the war on drugs and the legalization of marijuana after she just spent her entire, public professional career against those things? So I want to hear her be passionate. I was wrong. I was blind, and now I can see. So before I thought that, but now I'm going to fight for, as hard as I can. So that's what I need to hear, especially after Tulsi pointed out, her Kamala flaws. Kamala, yeah, it's Kamala. So as Attorney General, she, is all about drugs. Now, Kamala Harris also is going to evolve on body cameras for all the police, turned on all the time. Kamala Harris supports Bernie Sanders' Free College for All, the Free College for All Act. So she's in favor of free college. Tulsi Gabbard has her own free college, but just for middle class and lower. $125,000. If you're making $125,000, all the families making $125,000 or less will get free college under a Tulsi Gabbard administration. Kamala Harris is a co-sponsor of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. Tulsi Gabbard is not. She approved of it initially, but she didn't like its vague language. So Tulsi Gabbard believes in the spirit of the Green New Deal, but Kamala Harris is a co-sponsor of the actual Green New Deal. And the actual Green New Deal says federal jobs program, universal health care, universal basic income. It's got a ton of stuff. It isn't just fixing the environment, but universal basic income. Is Kamala Harris saying she's for the universal basic income? Is she saying she's for federal jobs program? Is she saying that she's for, the universal health care? If she's for all those things, then that's, fantastic. That's good on her. Good for us. It's progressive. Kamala Harris supports the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is how we integrated America. She also believes in integration by busing. Joe Biden, did not want the black kids to go to school with the white kids. Kamala Harris has taken no corporate PAC money. She sued ExxonMobil. She sued Wall Street through the whole, 2008 Great Recession. ExxonMobil for something. And she won. So she was able to take on, the oil and gas industry in Wall Street, and she was able to beat them. She passed an anti-lynching law, which 2018, she co-sponsored a federal anti-lynching bill that passed the Senate. I mean, lynching, it's clearly wrong. So I feel like, God, I hope we're not, still, that's not an issue still. I haven't heard a breakout of a bunch of lynching, but I guess there's a couple things that had happened. So maybe that's what it was in response to. But it's clearly wrong, so, good for Kamala. That's progressive. They're both pro-dreamers, pro-immigration reform, probably comprehensive immigration reform, so they could bump their immigration packages and plans and see. I guarantee, they got so many progressive planks that they totally agree on, right? So Kamala Harris opposes Trump's wall, so she's actually better than Hillary. Hillary was not opposed to the wall. She's in favor of dreamers. She wants to pass the Access to Counsel Act, which guarantees immigrants legal representation, and the Reunited Act to reunite separated immigrant families. Both are pro-choice. Both are opposed to the TPP. So Tulsi and Kamala, pro-choice, anti-TPP, pro-dreamers, pro-comprehensive immigration reform. Kamala Harris, she is, when it comes to the wall, she calls it a medieval vanity project. When it comes to DACA, she supports it. And then immigration, the access to counsel, all those things. I'm just sort of repeating myself. But the access to counsel guarantees detained migrants access to an attorney. The Reunited Act is to reunify separated migrant families, introduce legislation to increase oversight at immigrant detention centers, and to end the construction of new facilities. So the Reunite Act, the Access to Counsel Act, As Attorney General, she investigated ExxonMobil, lied about its research on climate change. She's got a 100% lifetime score, Kamala Harris does, based on her voting record from the League of Conservation Voters. It's an environmental group. Both Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard are pro-gay folks and gay marriage. Kamala Harris is for gay marriage. She defended the rights of gay folks. There was a California law that prohibited gay marriage, but she did not uphold it. She did not defend it when she was the Attorney General for California, which is interesting because you're supposed to follow the law, right? Either repeal it or follow it. But she picked and chose bad laws, so that's like Martin Luther King. There's morality, then there's legality. And you have a moral obligation to stand up against illegal laws that stop morality. Something like, that's paraphrase. I butchered the shit out of it, but that's MLK. So she supported transgendered individual rights to use the bathroom of their choice during her time as Attorney General. I'm not sure how I feel about transgendered and bathroom rights. I feel like, what's the problem with all of us just using one bathroom? And then what would be the problem with transgendered having their own bathrooms? Because the problem that we can't put men and women together because, men are fucking rapists and they're dirty and they're gross. And so you can't put men and women together. And so because you can't put men and women together, transgendered are kind of their own, special category. To have their own private bathroom, that would be luxurious and wonderful. So is it possible that somebody could pretend to be transgender to go into, a female restroom? Yeah, it's possible. So, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I wish we could take shits and piss, all in the same toilet. I wish that was... I dream of a day when we all could piss and shit in the same washroom, bathroom, public restroom. It's almost better if you're a public, spot to not even know we don't have restrooms. Well, how do you all use the bathroom? We hold it all day long. She says that she requested that the government not move forward with providing a prison inmate a gender reassignment surgery. I'm okay with that. As DA, she created a hate crimes unit to prosecute crimes against the LGBTQ youth. So that's good. That's progressive. Right, so she has some progressive record, but you have to say that she has a sweeping progressive record that says, okay, yeah, she did all those bad things, but she's got all these good things, but if she doesn't have enough good things that outweigh the bad things, then she's going to have to apologize and have a teachable moment for America. She needs to clarify this. She needs to address it. Because if she ignores it, then she's just saying that the criticism doesn't hold value or that it's true. She did say, she's a top-tier candidate, so just, stupid little Tulsi Gabbard 1%, and then she's Assad supporter. Now, is Kamala going to be for the war? Kamala was correct by being opposed to the war, but now that Tulsi and Kamala are beefing, and really they're constructive criticisms on her policy, which is totally, that's not mean, that's not rude. The more that you focus on policy and you criticize poignantly on policy, the better it is for America. And then Kamala, if she evolves, this will make her stronger. So this isn't going to be a criticism. If she doesn't want it to be a criticism against the Republican, then she needs to know she needs to solve it. She needs to fix this. So Kamala Harris, fix this. You got so many, incredible progressive planks. So they're both pro-gay folks, pro-gay marriage. She didn't, defend the California law against gay folks. They're going to both oppose the TPP. Kamala and Tulsi both opposed TPP. Kamala Harris opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, with Trump withdrew the U.S. from in 2017, saying that the deal wasn't transparent and would have hurt California's environmental protection efforts. So they agree with that. Now Kamala has, she hates Donald's trade war with China and his tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from the EU, Canada, and Mexico. She says that China has engaged in unfair industrial policies, outright theft of American intellectual property. She also won a $1.1 billion settlement against a for-profit college chain for the predatory and illegal practices, and she extracted $25 billion from Wall Street to compensate California homeowners following the financial crisis. $25 billion. So Kamala's got a ton of progressive planks. Kamala and Tulsi agree on a ton of things. They both suck on Palestine, and so, Tulsi Gabbard, I like Tulsi Gabbard more because I'm more familiar with her. She stood up for Bernie, 3 years ago, so I appreciate that. One of the few people that stood next to Bernie. So I hope that Bernie picks her to be, the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War, which is what it used to be called. Now, now we're going to have unlimited war because it's all defense, right? Even our aggressive wars, they're for defense. It's all in the name of defense. So, Kamala Harris would be a good, something too, I'm sure, housing or something, I don't know. She could be on Bernie Sanders' cabinet. Bernie Sanders is a way better candidate than both Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala they're strong women who are lovely. And they maintain their, femininity. Kamala, she's got, she's real pretty. I mean, for a politician, she's gorgeous. But, there's her nose isn't perfect. And Tulsi Gabbard, she got a giant head. But they're beautiful women. They're both gorgeous, beautiful women. Tulsi Gabbard is, she's a soldier. She talks like an asshole. Kind of, I don't know if that's what I want out of my commander-in-chief. I wish she would actually kind of lighten up, because I'm sure she can't be that, serious as a heart attack. It's like she's, overly serious just to make sure everybody, knows she's serious. So she could crack a joke every once in a while, kind of, I don't know. She's, like I said, she was, good on a lot of things, so that's all superficial bullshit, but I think it's actually a testament to who Tulsi and Kamala Harris is, that they can stand up for these issues and take the licks. This is where I stand by by throwing yourself out there and saying where you stand, and they maintain their femininity. They're still lovely women. They're still gorgeous, lovely women in politics, and they're pretty effective in politics. So, they have a lot of similarities, and I hope they get along and they start talking about all these things, because they have a lot of similarities. Kamala is better on the Green New Deal when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi is not in favor of the Green New Deal. What was it, universal basic income? She said it had vague language, so that's, I'd like to know her precise criticism of the Green New Deal. They're free college for all. Kamala seems to be to the left of Tulsi on that too, because Bernie's free college for all is for everybody, including the wealthy, and it's for student debt cancellation. Where is Tulsi on student debt cancellation? So Kamala Harris seems like she's better on college, free college. She's better on the Green New Deal than Tulsi Gabbard. And they both agree on the Dreamers. They both agree on gay folks, gay marriage. They're both for comprehensive immigration reform. They're both opposed to the TPP. Both are pro-choice. So it's a lot of comparisons. That's a lot of similarities between the two. So that ends my Kamala versus Tulsi thing. So they're both in my top 5. Bernie Sanders is my number 1. Tulsi is my number 2. And then my number 3 has been tied between Kamala, Corey, and not Pete. Pete's 6. Marianne is Inslee's kind of in there. I don't know. I got a handful of people. Essentially, Bernie Sanders is who I'm going to vote for, so that's all that matters, right? We've already figured that out. So movealong.com. I'm voting for Bernie Sanders when it comes to Colorado in March. Okay, so that's my contribution. But for the other ones, I think that all these affect the narrative, the political narrative of the national conversation, and a lot of these characters, you'll see them on media, you'll see them on TV, or you'll see them in the administration. So they're all real smart progressives. I think it'd be very smart for Bernie Sanders to get along with, win the election, but to get along with them enough to where if he asked them to, be the EPA director, Jay Inslee would be a good EPA director. Julian Castro would be good for immigration, and then Tulsi would be good for defense. So you got a lot of great progressives that would be great for Bernie Sanders' cabinet. So that's where I'm at right now with Bernie Sanders. And also, I think it's better conversation to say not that Bernie Sanders rocks and they all are dog shit and they're all stupid. People love Bernie, or they'll love, these other candidates. So you're not going to get people who love Kamala and Tulsi to hate those candidates just so you can, get them to vote for your own candidate. So I think being nuanced, and when it comes to Tulsi, Kamala and Cory Booker and somebody else that I feel like is obvious, but I'm totally not thinking of. They are very, Elizabeth Warren, oh my God. Yeah, so they're very progressive. Very, very progressive. Elizabeth Warren is super progressive. Calls herself a capitalist, but she's for universal health care. She's for nationalizing 1/5 of the U.S. economy. So what kind of capitalist is this? You're going to nationalize 1/5 of the U.S. economy? So she is a socialist capitalist. She doesn't know. She doesn't seem to understand political science. But, you know, she passes laws and she has her heart's in the right spot, and I think she's got enough advisors and people. So her, nuclear policy. So anyways, they're all progressive. So to throw the progressive out with the neoliberal bathwater, point out their criticize them for what they suck at, but also say what they're good at, because those could be things that Bernie could learn from. Bernie could do the 2-cent wealth tax of, Elizabeth Warren, the 2-cent wealth tax. Instead of a marginal tax rate. So that's, he could do UBI, he could do Cory Booker's baby bonds. All these things would make Bernie Sanders better, make Bernie more Bernier. And so by talking about the ideas, the progressive ideas, that's really all that fucking matters in, a government anyways. What were these progressive policies, these progressive planks that they championed and that they got passed, and, then it helped everybody in America, and then we all helped the world because we were so happy and fat and plump and content and comfortable and wealthy and rich and just had too much, so much that our cup overfloweth, and we just started, redistributing our goods and services all over the world just because our kind hearts wanted to make a difference in the winter of our lives. All right. Peace.